Hey guys, today we are going to answer questions about the Wedi waterproofing system. If you watch the video, what do Ardex, Redguard, and Schluter have in common, then you know I'm making this video in response to a YouTube channel and the many questions I've been getting about 4 specific products: Ardex, Redguard, Schluter, and Wedi. The first video covered Ardex, Schluter, and Redguard. This video will cover Wedi. Just like the previous video, this is about understanding what is going on and clearing up inaccuracies and misleading information. In the previous video, I got some comments about looking into other channels that might be spreading false or inaccurate information. The reason I made these videos is because I've had a fair bit of questions regarding this particular channel, and I have some personal knowledge in the situation. I don't necessarily want to chase people on YouTube or stop them from saying what they want to say. But as a contractor and a professional in the building industry, I do feel an obligation to protect the industry and the consumer from misinformation. My hope is that these videos don't just shine a light on one person, but help to educate in testing procedures, why you need to work with the manufacturers, and how to evaluate information. It's easy to get caught up in the hype and ignore the details. This video is all about the details, so let's get to it. The Wedi video apparently starts with the homeowner contacting the YouTuber and asking for his help, because his roughly 11-and-a-half-year-old shower is leaking. The client stated he tried contacting the original tile contractor and they were no longer in business. He then got a hold of Wedi, the manufacturer of the waterproofing system used in his shower. Now, all of the products we previously went over in the first video and Wedi all have good warranties and warranty inspections. This means they come to the job site and do a full investigation to determine the cause of the failure. After the inspection, a full report is made in writing as to what was found and whether the claim is accepted or denied. That means the homeowner has a report with the exact reason for denying the claim. Both gentlemen acknowledge this report in the video. Now, you would think disclosing the information on the report and the reason for denial would be step 1. So here is what the homeowner said about the inspection.
When you go in the shower, there's a seat in there, there's a granite piece that matches the countertop. Okay. He was able just to kind of jerk real hard and jerk the top of that off. Okay. He jerked that off, and then he started, there's 2 spots that you'll see in the report that he pulled the tile off. Then he determined, he could see the dry rot there, you could run a screwdriver there, that basically all the wood from the seat to the floor, all of it was gone. Yeah. So he pulled off 2 more tile, and he said, you know, hey, this is big, and then wrote up a report. Then at that time, they sent the report in and they denied the claim. And we can go over a little bit more of that.
Okay, what you just saw is all the information given about the inspection. You probably noticed near the end where the homeowner mentioned going over the denial further. Well, nothing more was gone over. Here the YouTuber says he will read the Wedi documentation.
Yeah, I'll if you can get me any documentation that Wedi showed me, I'll read it a little bit, but yeah.
But again, nothing more about the report is mentioned or clarified in the video. Why both of them chose not to clearly disclose the reason for denial is very suspect at best. And what was disclosed wasn't very clear. It seems the granite seat top was removed just by hand, and then there were 2 spots which the homeowner looks at the camera and says, you'll see in the report, which never gets shown.
There's 2 spots that you'll see in the report.
But apparently, under these spots was a lot of visible rot damage, and all the wood from the seat to the floor was apparently gone due to rot. Then the homeowner says the Wedi inspector pulled off 2 more tiles. He then mumbles something which I could not understand, then says the inspector wrote up the report, which was not shown in the video.
So he pulled off 2 more tile, and he said, you know, hey, this is big, and then wrote up a report.
But what it sounds like to me, with limited information, is that the seat seems to be the culprit. And if all the wood from the seat down was rotted out, that's a pretty good indication. Now, the YouTuber mentions in the video that the shower had a flood test passed by the city. So that means it wasn't leaking from the start. But if the seat were the issue, the flood test would not show a failure, as it only checks the drain pan and perimeter.
During the permit process, you actually have to get your shower pans water tested. That's part of the permit application. I'll show you the test on here, but it passed the initial water test, so we know this wasn't leaking from the start.
It's easy to see there is a fair bit of damage, and for that much rot to occur, it's been leaking for a long time. As a note, we commonly refer to this as water damage, but the reality is water doesn't actually damage the wood, fungus does. But for the spores to germinate, there needs to be moisture, generally around 20%. What you see here in the video is brown rot. The fungus secretes enzymes that turn wood cells into glucose, which it uses for food. Because carbohydrates are removed, this leaves brownish, oxidized lignin, giving it its name, brown rot. The cellulose structure of the wood is broken up early in the decay, causing the wood to shrink and develop cross-checking. This drastically weakens the wood, even crumpling when you touch it. Another unique property of dry rot is that it can move to other areas, bringing water with it. These are called water-conducting fungi. With a small leak in one area, brown rot can travel all throughout the structure as long as the moisture is present. Now, I'm not here to determine what caused the leak. I'm here to show that shoot first and ask questions later is not the best way to investigate, and common sense can make no sense. If you've studied any of the sciences, chemistry, physics, engineering, then you know that none of these subjects are based on common sense. The world and science works the way it works simply because that's how it works. And if it worked any other way, then that would be how it works, having nothing to do with being common or sensible. But why is this important? Because of this statement.
You know, I'm not an authorized expert by any organization or institution, but I have been doing this since 2002. I use a lot of common sense.
Now, I want to make it clear. If you don't know something, that doesn't mean you don't have common sense. It means you haven't studied that which you don't know. And there are lots of things we don't know. Common sense would be, don't make something up if you don't know. Now let's look at statements made in the video.
You know, I think one of the issues that we have with these foam pan systems is just how soft the foam is, and it just has give to it. So when you're relying on a simple little caulking joint that Wedi allows, you really don't have any room for error, especially if you start getting flex. And here in California, we have seismic activity. We have a lot of forces that'll put stresses on our structures. So foam is just soft and it'll move, and then once that happens, that's when the sealant starts to break.
Okay, this is a very generic and broad statement. First, not all manufacturers' foams are the same, nor is the facing or stiffness. And foam density has a very wide range, from ½ pound to 60 pound and more. The foam pans are designed to have mortar and tile placed on top, displacing any small concentrated load, making them plenty sufficient to bear well above expected loads. If the subfloor does not meet the required L/360 or L/720 deflection ratio, then you could have an issue with any system. Regarding movement, it's true. If the pan edges flex, the sealant will flex too. This is actually one of the benefits of sealants. Its modulus of elasticity, meaning its ability to remain flexible and elongate before total failure. Compared to most mortars, sealants designed for this purpose have much higher flexibility. This is the reason we use them for anti-fracture membranes and replace grout with sealants in the corners. To say when or if a sealant will break, knowing none of the properties of that sealant, is kind of ridiculous. He actually doesn't even know what sealant he's looking at, which you'll see later. Plus, having no information on all the other components is a shoot first and ask questions later method. Now, it is true that in California we have many different seismic zones, from B all the way to E. But this is also true with other states and countries. I don't believe any waterproofing warranties against an earthquake, but they do give movement and elasticity parameters for their products. Here's a part later in the video where he says, the sealant has a lot of stretch, which is what you want in a good sealant.
It's a white polyurethane type sealant that has a lot of stretch to it.
Then he follows up with saying all you're relying on is a caulking joint between the floor and wall, and there is nothing that laps up and over.
And that's what's holding, that's the only waterproofing. That's my problem with Wedi, is you're just relying on basically a caulking joint between the floor and the wall to waterproof the whole pan. There's nothing that laps up and over.
Just to be clear, what is being used is a sealant, not caulking. In reality, they both can mean the same thing, but generally people associate caulking with the $2 tubes you get at the big box store, and we all know that ain't gonna work.
You're just relying on this caulking joint.
Wedi now uses a specially formulated sealant designed specifically for their system. Regarding lapping up and over, this is not correct. You can see in this diagram that the sealant is actually making a monolithic film in the joint and connecting outside the joint going up the wall and across the floor. Next, he removes a small piece of the pan and says that it looks like the installer didn't put any sealant in the notch, which would obviously be an issue.
It actually looks like they missed a step that, oh no, it's on there. Wait a second. To me, what it looks like is there's supposed to be a bead of sealant in here.
Then he looks a little closer at the assembly and questions his original thought a couple times.
It's supposed to get a bead of sealant, and this is supposed to sit in here like this. To me, what looks like happened is they didn't do that part.
Moving on to the conclusion that there was sealant in the notch, it just delaminated.
Okay, so what has happened here is the sealant that goes in here, you put a bead of sealant in here, and then the board goes on top. But what happened is the sealant delaminated from this foam.
Once he decided his delamination theory was rock solid, and before even removing the piece from the wall, he then doubled down and said, there's no way you can expect polyurethane to hold up on a surface like this, referring to the foam.
And you can see the foam, if I rub it with my finger, there's no way you can expect polyurethane to hold up on a surface like this.
To be fair, he did test his hypothesis by rubbing his thumb on the foam while wearing a glove. Wedi's only had engineers look at the chemical properties of both materials, checking their cohesive and adhesive properties, checking elasticity and structural integrity, not to mention all the liability and responsibility if they produce a faulty product. Now, it is possible for a manufacturer to miss something or overlook a material property or situation. But my guess is that the thumb test is not the missing link. Then he goes on to say it started with a good bead of sealant. At this point, he still doesn't have the piece off the wall, so I don't know how he could determine that.
This started with a good bead of sealant.
Then he says, as there was any stress, it just peeled away.
As there was any stress, it just peeled away.
Again, I have to question how this conclusion was determined. He finally gets the piece off the wall, and the entire back of the board is gone. He then shows what's left of the wall piece fitting into the notch, and what appears to be sealant attached to the front of the board, then immediately determines case solved.
When you rely on a simple caulking joint like this, you can see what will happen over time.
Now, I haven't seen this bathroom in person, and for some reason the report and denial were not disclosed. Plus, from what I have seen on this video, I certainly couldn't in good conscience rely on his assessment or conclusions. But let's assume what he's saying is true. There's no way you can expect polyurethane to hold up on a surface like this.
There's no way you can expect polyurethane to hold up on a surface like this.
And with any stress, it just peels away.
As there was any stress, it just peeled away.
That would mean Wedi tested the sealant and it continually failed to adhere. Then, under any movement a shower would experience, the testing showed the sealant would simply delaminate. We need to assume, just as he is, that these are facts. Now, I think it would be fair to say, if this were true, you would have a lot of showers failing. You would probably expect to see a 99.9% failure rate, but instead, Wedi sees a 99.9% success rate. This is why science and education is so important. Without it, the earth would still be flat. Here's what a joint looks like when you use a 1/2-inch bead like you're supposed to. This is before spreading, and you can see there is a lot of squeeze out. This is what causes the continuous layer. Here's what it takes to pull a proper joint apart. I've taken this sample from the video, clamped it to the door header, and made a hanging base to apply weight. I then filled the bucket up with 65 pounds of travertine pieces, but this wasn't enough. So I added 2 more buckets weighing 25 pounds each with a total weight of 115 pounds, and it still didn't break. So I decided to try and hang from it, and the screws from the brace tore through the foam before it broke. Then I tried again and hung for a couple seconds before the board-to-board connection broke. Being that I weigh 225 pounds, this is pretty impressive. Then I had to brace myself in the doorway to tear the wall board from the base. You can see that it tore up the foam as well. Saying that there is no way you can expect polyurethane to hold up on a surface like this, and as there was any stress, it just peeled away, clearly is a made-up idea based on no actual testing or experience with the product. After he posted his video, several people mentioned that they thought the wrong sealant was used because Wedi never promoted a white color sealant. He responded in the comments by saying, "The report made no mention of the white sealant being wrong. It would have been easy for them to deny the claim on that basis, but they did not." Now, obviously, this statement answers nothing about the sealant, but it does let us know whatever was on that report was more obviously wrong than the possibility of having used the incorrect sealant. And that's quite telling. So the YouTuber made another video looking into what sealant was used during the shower build. But this raises a few questions. First, he posted a whole video saying why Wedi doesn't work, all based on the sealant, and that he would never use a sealant system because it won't hold up.
I would never, never, ever build a shower relying on a simple caulking joint like this.
But now we find out that he wasn't even aware of what sealant was used or what sealants Wedi approved.
All it said in the instructions was a Wedi approved polyurethane caulking. So what that meant, I didn't know. I just knew it was polyurethane.
So if he's saying a sealant system won't work, are we to assume that he's saying he is familiar with every sealant out there and knows all of their properties and chemical bonds with other materials, that he can confidently state a sealant system won't work?
Now, I don't know much about the industry and how this stuff works.
Well, there goes that theory. Now, you might think after that statement, you'd be a little more cautious about what you say next, but here's what follows.
But to me, it seems like they were using a component in their waterproofing assembly that wasn't going to live up to that 15-year warranty that Wedi was giving on this installation.
Okay, so maybe he really researched out the product, spoke to the manufacturer, and did his due diligence so he can responsibly relay the information. Let's see how he came to this conclusion. He started by looking up what sealant was used back in 2007. He states that it was really difficult to find any information on what type of sealant Wedi was using, and that he had to search through the archives on the internet to find it.
And so it was really difficult to find any information on what type of sealant Wedi was using back then. So I went back into archive.org and I'll show you how to do that.
I'm assuming this is because he doesn't talk with the manufacturers, because I simply and very quickly called Wedi, asked what sealants were approved back then, and they told me with no problem. He then found a document that stated Sikaflex 201 was an approved sealant.
I find Sikaflex 201 US. So this is the sealant that Wedi was using at the time.
And this is true. There actually were several approved sealants: Sikaflex 201, Bostik 915, and Sikaflex 221. Now you're probably wondering, did they all offer it in white? Yep. So how does he know what sealant they actually used? He doesn't. Up until this video, he had no idea what sealant Wedi allowed or used at all.
All it said in the instructions was a Wedi approved polyurethane caulking. So what that meant, I didn't know. I just knew it was polyurethane.
Now that he's decided Sikaflex 201 was used, he heads to their site, pulling up a data sheet on the product. This is good. Now we can look at the properties and testing that goes into the product, and this will help us better understand the sealant.
And it's a type 1-C polyurethane, which means it's a single component, and there it shows the white color. Now what surprised me on this is when I went down to the warranty, it said that the company warrants this product for 1 year from the date of installation. So basically, Wedi was putting a 15-year warranty, but they were using a component that only had a 1-year warranty.
Hold on a second. We spend all that time looking for the product, making a video, saying that sealant is a bad idea and it won't hold up, then all you show is it's a single component, they make it in white, and that Sika gives a 1-year warranty? Wow. There's actually a lot of good information on this sheet. Even if you don't know what it all means, it allows you to compare it to other sealants and get a general feel for the properties and performance. It tells you how the material cures, application temperature, skin over time, Shore A hardness, which indicates the flexibility of the material in relationship to its hardness. The harder it is, the less flexible. 201 has a 38 rating, meaning soft with good flexibility. He mentioned in the video that he noticed the sealant was soft, but this was said as a negative and led to the thought that the sealant must be breaking down, when in fact, it's soft to begin with, so it maintains good flexibility.
And when I took this assembly apart, when I did the demo, I did notice that the sealant was really soft, and I noted that in the original video, so it just seems like it had been breaking down.
Tensile strength is 175 pounds. Elongation at break is 550%. Tear propagation resistance is 55 pounds. Tensile lap shear strength is 130 psi. And movement accommodation is plus or minus 35%. These are all decent properties for a sealant. But he skipped over all that and went to the least important factor, Sika's warranty. Why is this the least important factor? Because Wedi holds and services the warranty, not Sika. Most sealants have a 1-year warranty because they don't control what you do with the product or how to use it. So saying that you don't think a product is good because of a generic 1-year warranty that most manufacturers have is very misinformed on how the industry works and misleading to the consumer. Next, he moved on to find out more about polyurethane. Back to the Google University.
So to find out a little bit more about polyurethane and its properties, how long it lasts, I just Googled how long does polyurethane caulk last. First thing that came up was something that said 5 to 10 years. So this led me to an article, and they're actually using Sikaflex in this article.
This time the first page that popped up was Maxwell Supply out of Oklahoma. Now you're probably thinking, it's a local tile distributor. Nope. Sealant manufacturer? Nope. Building Science Corporation? Nope. It's Oklahoma's leading supplier for flatwork, tilt-up, paving, and bridge accessories. Now it was nice of them to provide a page for their customers giving very generalized information about polyurethane sealants versus silicone. But if you're using this as the basis for telling people that Wedi doesn't work and that sealants can't be used in this application, well, that's just ridiculous. Okay, last he talked about looking at an old installation DVD from Wedi on installing a shower. He mentions that he got comments on the first video saying you need to spread the sealant 2 inches from the joint in both directions. Then states that Wedi didn't do that in their video, hoping to catch them in a mistake.
So the last thing I did is I looked through the original instructional DVD that came with the kit back in 2007. The homeowner had kept this as part of his records, so he sent the file to me. I was able to look through it and go over it and see if everything kind of matched up to what all you had left in the comments about how it was supposed to be installed. Another one of the comments that I got was that while he put the sealant into the rabbet joint and pushed the board down into it, he didn't use an adequate overlap on top of it. So you put enough sealant on the outside and spread it out. I think a lot of the comments said you had to spread out 2 inches from either side. Now, if you note in the instructional DVD, when they're putting that in there, he doesn't do that either. And it looks like it only, and you can see right there in the picture, it's not going out 2 inches. He basically just took his putty knife and knocked it down.
If he would have bothered to actually check the manufacturer's site and not just accept anyone's opinion, he would have seen that a 1-inch lap is required. Here's a clip from Michael Scott that perfectly sums up what's going on.
Wikipedia is the best thing ever. Anyone in the world can write anything they want about any subject. So you know you are getting the best possible information.
Okay, as funny as that is, a Google degree is real, widespread, and dangerous. The message I hope to give is make sure you're using a reliable source for your information. If you want to know proper installation techniques or learn more about a product, then your first stop should be the manufacturer. There are good channels out there with quality information, but you still want to double check with the manufacturer because they hold the warranty. Thank you for watching. I hope these videos have helped and give you a better understanding about these products and how to get the information you need. Don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and I'll see you next time.